first of all, actually, Aisling, I'll hand over to you just for a little warm-up session for us all.
Thanks, Aoife. Yes, hi everybody. My name is Aisling and I work at the Ark, and we have partnered with IMC on various things over the last number of years, which has always been really great, a really great collaboration, and it's great to be doing another event with them today. We hope it's fruitful and inspiring for all of you, and we're looking forward to interacting with you more. As Aoife was saying, the beginning part will be a panel, but there will be time for questions, and then as the day goes on, we're going to get a little bit more interactive as we go. So just to kind of set the mood and to have a little bit of fun at the start, I'm going to ask you to participate in a little fun, this is very silly now, but a little fun kind of multiple choice question thing. So how this works is you have to go to a website called menti.com and put in a code. So I'm just going to show you, make sure I've got the right thing up now, what I'm talking about. Some of you may have done this kind of thing before. I came across it on another Zoom event I was involved in. So can you all see that? So this is just a little fun multiple choice of how you're feeling right now this minute. It's all anonymous, so we'll never know who answered yes to whichever question. So just to reassure you on that. So you see at the very top of the page here, if you go to menti.com, you can open another tab on your browser and go to menti.com and put in this code, then this page will appear. And then you just put in your answer to the question, whichever one you want. And it would, in live, it's going to start to count up everybody's answers. So I will also put that in the chat now, just in case that's easier for people.
I just did there, actually.
Oh, you did it already. Thanks, Aoife. You're quick off the mark. So have a go. It's quite straightforward. Once you've done it once, hopefully you get your head around it.
Oh. Grand is winning so far.
Grand is winning so far.
And some energetic early birds, excellent.
I wonder if we need to explain to our international guests.
What are sure I'm grand?
Sure, I'm grand.
Yeah. It just means I'm fine, I'm cool.
Well, grand can mean many, many things.
It can mean anything.
Generally, it's fine.
Yeah.
The little sloth gives you maybe an idea of it, just kind of relaxed.
I'm going to say I'm fine no matter what's going on anyway. I think this is the general gist.
Oh, the sloth is winning anyway. So have we all done it? Have you all had a chance to do it?
At least
there's 16 people done it. Is not everybody on our call, apart from me.
God.
Great. So most people are grand, and a few people need a cup of tea, and a couple of early birds, and a few people are a bit unsure. That's okay too. Yeah, it's an exploratory day, so it's going to be hopefully a good discussion and learning experience for all of us. A few more votes coming in there. And we've no sleepy people, which I'm amazed at, with a bunch of musicians at 10 in the morning. Fair play to you all. So it looks like our sloth is the kind of emblem of the day, which is good. Good way to start. So I'm just going to show you another one of these, which is equally silly, another little bit of fun. So I'll just go forward to the next one if you're up for another one. It's the same code. A vote for your favorite Christmas movie. I know this is controversial. You know, I'm sure people would have things that they've put on this list that I haven't included, but have a vote. Oh, this is getting interesting. Oh,
Muppets Christmas Carol is
neck and neck movie. With the animal there on the drums. Oh.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory does have great music though, which might be skewing the results.
Maybe.
Got that world of pure imagination, I mean.
Well, exactly. That's true. That's true, Katrina.
Gremlins, I'm still traumatized by it
Are you?
so many years later. No clear winner on this one, really.
Well, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory's ahead by 1, and followed in a close second by Muppets. Okay, has everyone had a chance to vote on that?
Yeah, I think so, more or less.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for giving that a go. It's just a little bit of fun to kind of set the tone and
Yeah, very important research.
Waking up this morning. It's very important research, Aoife, exactly.
Yeah.
So, so we'll go on to things more formal now. If you're all kind of settled and ready and you have a cup of tea, if you needed one, near you, and I'll hand back over to Aoife, who's going to kick off the panel.
Thanks, Aisling. Yes, I'm just going to introduce now our first two speakers, who are the percussionist and composer Adriano Adewale and producer Martel Ollerenshaw, who produced a great show called Catapluf's Musical Journey for the London Jazz Festival a few years ago. And both work in an international capacity, doing a variety of different things. So I might just let them just jump in, and they can tell us a little bit about this musical journey that they also went on with Catapluf, and the show and how they created it and the outcomes from it. So I'll just hand it over to you then, Adriano and Martel.
Thanks, Aoife. Hello, everyone. So I'm Martel Ollerenshaw, and I don't work there now at Sirius, but I did work there for 15 years. And one of the great pleasures of working there was working as a creative producer, creating new work across a whole range of for all audiences of all kinds. And one of my roles was I managed artists, and I also published. We had a publishing company, and I published artists. And Adriano was too tempting. His skills and his enthusiasm and his ambitions were way too tempting to let go. So we formed an alliance, and we did some great work together over several years. And one of them was Catapluf's Musical Journey, and it was really a fantastic project. So I just wanted to give you the context for it. The Sirius and London Jazz Festival is, Sirius is the producer. London Jazz Festival is an event that they do every year. It has about 300 or more events, and then a year-round program that takes in concerts, tours, education work, talent development, a whole range of activities. So it was a non-stop, ever-expanding shop there. But one of the main streams of activity was learning and participation. And so the beauty of Adriano in this world was the fact that not only could he be part of the London Jazz Festival as a main stage artist, he could also go on tour at any time. He could work with L&P. He could be part of the whole talent development extravaganza that we were running, and also we were publishing his work. So we had quite an intense relationship for some years. So that's the context of it. Sirius wanted to create more work for diverse audiences, which includes young people and family audiences, and we were constantly raising money to do this. And on this particular occasion, we had money from the Arts Council and from a philanthropic organisation in the UK called the Paul Hamlin Foundation. And so we commissioned Adriano to create this work, and we provided the context for him to do that. So we had producers. I was one. We also had producers in the L&P team, and all of the things all the production elements that were needed for him to create a work of this kind. He'll talk about his own relationship with the work and with the audiences, but we wanted to show you a short clip just to start, so that you could see what we were talking about when we talk about it. And there's Adriano talks in this short clip, so there will be things there for you to see. It's not just a clip of the work. So if Katrina could give us that, you can see here that he's an amazing musician, but also an amazing performer and a brilliant communicator.
My name is Adriano Adewale. I am a percussionist, a composer, and today we are working on a project called Catapluf. Catapluf is a character who is fascinated with sounds, and he's really curious. He goes any sound, he tries, and he makes music with those sounds. And he meets people who are likewise, and together they create this wonderful world of rhythm and songs and tunes and so on. Catapluf is a project which has been commissioned by Sirius, and I've been writing the music for it. We came up with this idea to have live music, having a character, exploring all these different types of music from around the world. I have been working with children for over 10 years. And I love it. They are amazing, spontaneous, and they tell you straight away whether they liked it or not. They let you know. In this project, I have had the amazing experience of trying the ideas from the very beginning with primary schools based in different areas of London. So I went to these schools. I took some percussion instruments with me, and they were not only conventional percussion instruments. There was a waistcoat with bottle tops on it that made a noise. There were bells, pandeiro, which is a tambourine from Brazil. There were bottles of water, drain pipes played with.
So, Adriano, would you like to talk? We decided we'd divide our talk into three parts, which was research and development, creation, and exploitation. So that's where he can pick up now.
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be here with you all. Well, firstly, I would like to say that as a musician, I have always thought of my work, of the work as a musician, in three parts: so it's education, composing, and then the performer. So it all works together. One feeds off from the other, because I also think sometimes there is a little bit of a tendency to go to one aspect only of these three. And I actually think that they rather support each other. And the work with children, with young people, I have always been interested in working with kids. They make you think in a very innovative way. Their needs, their curiosity, and how they relate to it. Everything is new, and many times they will they will share new amazing techniques of playing instruments, or for understanding of a piece of music that you'd never have thought if it wasn't for a child bringing it onto you. So this has always fascinated me. And I was in London doing work with a theater company called Theatre Rights. Was a piece called Mojo. It premiered at the Barbican. It was really great. And after that, we started working with Catapluf. It was how can I say? I had just become a father then. I think there was one major influence as well. And I remember trying to make my son to sleep, an a non-experienced father, trying to make my son to sleep, 2-3 months old, and composing at the same time, 2-3 in the morning, because the proof that the song worked was right there. So it was at that moment of my life, I think, that played a major role in it. But the process of actually creating Catapluf as a whole was triggered because, you know, the children are interested in music. I think, in my experience anyway, I see many music shows, or when you go to look for music in shops, music shops and so on, there is a particular type of approach to it, which is a little bit, well, not a little bit, quite a lot paternalistic. And they try and drive children to a particular set of, there is an aesthetic of it. There is a way that people think that children can understand music. And actually, I think that they can appreciate, they can enjoy, they can experience any kind of music. And from that point of view, we started creating the show, going into schools and trying different things with the kids, see what was quoting their attention. And if you play really hardcore rhythms or sounds that are not expected, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is the way you introduce the sound and the music to them. They have to find their way in. So it's like we are facilitating how they enter that world. And once that path is there, they can come in and enjoy from a piece of, you know, really like jazz, really avant-garde jazz, to the sounds of the water, if you like. It's all to do, for me personally speaking, what I learned from the experience is all to do with the journey, hence, you know, Catapluf musical journey. And the work with Sirius, especially with Martel, was also at the core of it. I think the collaboration between the artist and the producer or the manager is really crucial for the project. I don't see them separated. I don't see that the manager, the producer is not on stage. I see the producer right there on stage. Somehow their presence is needed there. It's part of it. It makes the work go into a certain direction that it would not otherwise. It's make it coherent within the values, within the production values, and therefore, you know, we are already talking about, well, who we doing it for, and who is going to be benefiting from it. I think this is it. And once we started playing, showing and performing it, you know, the show started growing itself, of course. But it was amazing that parents, the kids, teachers, they would give extraordinary feedback about the whole performance. There was a great level of interaction. I personally, as a musician, as a composer, I made great discoveries throughout the the touring periods of Catapluf, including that, you know, the water, when the water is dropping, there is a moment that you only hear the very, very quiet sound of the drops of the water. And that was one of the highlights of the performance, because kids were quiet. So you had 200 kids quiet, listening to the sound of the water and silence. And that's when I went, okay, there is something happening
there. So thank you, Adriano. So I have, I'm a shameless promoter of work. So I've sent you around a list of quotes that we got, that we assembled. So there were quotes from all over the place. We were really fortunate to get, well, I'll call it mainstream, but you know, we'll go with it. Mainstream press, and well, not children's press is basically what I'm saying there. And but we collected everything. We surveyed everybody and we collected lots of information. So we got responses from teachers and from parents and from the kids, and then also from music reviewers and our peers across Europe. So we have a really nice package of information. So, you know, it's not just taking our word for it, it's what other people say too. And I think that for us, in order to sell it to our own audience at Sirius, we needed these things, and also to sell it on to other people, we needed it as well. So then we thought we'd go into the creation, but I think Adriano's probably done that. So he commissioned, he composed the music, he assembled the cast, he made a recording. Perhaps Adriano, you could talk about that process.
Yes. Well, when we started touring the project, we didn't have a CD, and actually there was not really an intention to record a CD. Although as a musician, you're always thinking, yes, well, you know, that project is always there regardless. But the pieces developed as they do once you start touring, and then we decided to record the album. I think a big part of it is also the musicians who were involved in the project, the fantastic musicians. We had Juliano Pereira from Brazil as well, playing guitar and sax, Marcelo Andrade playing guitar and sax and flute, both. Also clarinet. Andrés Ticino, he plays percussion from Uruguay, and Jenny Adejaya, she plays cello. She's from London, Nigeria. And everybody was super interested, super excited about the project. They all worked with the children before, and so therefore they were experienced. And we could see there was a rapport with the kids. The kids, after the performance, they would come to all the different musicians, asking questions, interested onto how do you make music? How does it work? How did you just do this? What happened just now? Because in the end of the concert, it was like a piece which, you know, there was a reviewer in London. I forgot his name. I'm sorry, but he said it was like free jazz. They towards the concert like free jazz, but then you had kids like you really like in their chairs, really going for it. So with that reaction, we went to the studio and we recorded all the pieces of the concert. And after the concerts, the performance, many people got the album, purchased it, and I had feedbacks from parents actually writing, asking for when is it that you're going to record the second album. Because the music, it was music. It wasn't made for like, it is for children, therefore it has to be like that. It was music. We were playing music. It is what you heard there. Of course, there is the element of the performance there, but if you put it on, you hear it as you hear any other album.
Thanks. So I've sent round a one-pager that we put together, and you can also see we were delighted with the promotional campaign that the show took and that the album also had, which is behind me. Which way am I going? This way. I put it there so you could see. I can also send this around to you if you would prefer. This came in all different colors, and we were able to other venues were able to use it. So we had a really nice set of assets that we were able to use as part of the ongoing exploitation of Catapluf. And so once we'd, you know, commissioned it and then we'd produced it, then the next part of it was selling it to other people to try and disseminate is a nicer word, but actually, you know, it was the exploitation of the work. And so again, we needed to raise money for this because the only downside to Catapluf, the only downside is that it's a 6-person touring company. So there's 5 people on stage, and we send we did send a sound engineer, tour manager out on the road with it. So while it's fantastic to watch with 5 people and have fantastic sound, you know, it does come at a price. So so we sent it around the country, and we were really well, pleasantly surprised, but also, well, why wouldn't it too? Also, the thing was, it was a wordless 50-minute work, so it was designed to travel, so it had no language, and so no language barriers. So we did quite a significant tour over a couple of years, which included Brighton Festival, Turner Sims in Southampton, Town Hall Symphony Hall in Birmingham, Stratford Circus, which is in East London, Rich Mix, which is in Central London or East London, Saffron Hall in the East. I think it's in Essex. Lakeside in Nottingham, Xeon Arts in Manchester, the National Centre of Early Music in York. Adriano also did 2 residencies around this, so a Spark Arts for Children's Festival, which is in Leicester. He was in residence for a week. And we also we were approached by West Lothian Council in Scotland about Adriano going and doing performances and workshops across, I think it was a 2-week period, wasn't it, Adriano? You were there.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So for 2 weeks in Scotland, so that was a bit of a coup as well to have such a long run. And then internationally, it went to Jazz de la Pommier in Coutances in France, and it went to Poland. It went to the Vestnorsk Jazz Centre in Bergen in Norway, and they're really committed to work for children. They've commissioned work for children. They've presented work for children, so they were a great partner. And a great partner for the future for everybody else if they're interested as well. And then also up into the very far north of Sweden, into Umeå, and we had a fantastic response from the director there, who said it was one of the best shows for children he's ever seen. And so, you know, we flogged that little quote mercilessly as well. So we were pretty happy all round with the response, and we had a nice run with it for many years, didn't we, Adriano? And it's resting at the moment, isn't it?
It is resting there, yes. Now and then it wakes up, you know, and but yeah, it was fantastic. And as a performer, to come out of concerts where you see people really connecting to it, not only enjoying, but connecting in different levels, and parents as well, musicians, parents who are musicians themselves, parents who didn't play any music at all, but people coming out of the performance really, you know, gone through an experience. Mm-hmm. There is a question on the chat from Jane. Did you compose all the music yourself, or did you collaborate with the other musicians? I composed pretty much all the music myself. The only one we actually collaborated was the one called Jungle Dreams, which is, it portrays like a forest where the water appears and so on. But all the other ones, I wrote it myself. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Adriano and Martel. It speaks a lot for the show that it had such wide reach within the UK and across Europe. If anybody, we have just a few more minutes here before we move on to the next project. If there's any questions, if you want to maybe raise your hand or put it into the chat. Does everyone know how to raise their hand? The blue hands. It's in the participants button there at the bottom. I just have a quick question if nobody has. Oh wait, Paddy there, sorry. Do you want to say something there, Paddy?
Hi Adriana, great to see you again. I just wondered, yeah, how was it at the start of the process? I a few years ago, I wasn't good with working with kids or dealing with kids at all. And since some of them have come into my life, I've gotten a lot better. But how were you at the start of the process of performing for and with kids?
Okay, not necessarily for Catapluf, you mean in general, yeah? You live and you learn. I think when I was actually learning music long time ago, when I was about 18 years old, I had an amazing teacher. And I started then not only learning from her, but also teaching some of her students who at the time were kids. And since then, I developed this ability to deal to how to communicate with kids. I also did a bit of theater that really helped how to understand about the performing aspect of it. I mean, how do you engage with kids? So you give a little bit, and then you take them on to a different world, if you like. Excuse me. And then you carry on experiment with it. I think we all have our own way. I wouldn't say there is a particular way to work with kids. I think us as performers, we find our own ways to negotiate, to liaise with them, because they are kids. In my experience, they are always interested in whatever. Is it a drum kit? It is a tuba. It is the sound of a bottle of water. But what is interesting for you as a performer? What is interesting about that particular sound, and how you share that with the kids? From that, they get engaged. You know, once they get engaged, once you find that way that triggers their minds, their curiosity, you have them, and then you go anywhere. So that process repeated over and over and over and over, different ways. And because percussion, you have so many instruments, so I have, quite a few options there to try different approaches to it. But once you know, okay, that's what it calls, that's what it triggers, that's how they react, then you start assembling this together on a kind of a storyline. That the storyline was very important, because kids hook up onto that.
Okay, thanks, Adriano. That's really just interesting, like you're saying, the way into the journey, but also by the sounds of it being authentic to yourself as well, that they can connect with that in some ways. Jane, is that a new hand up that you have there? Okay, we'll take one more question from you, and then we'll probably have to wrap up then.
Hi, thank you so much. It's been really interesting so far, and it's great to see your passion and love for working with kids. I'm just wondering, so you have the composing, you have the performing, and you have like the organizing of everything, but how did you put it all together, like to try and, so you had this concept, but how did it kind of come to fruition?
Are you talking about the story aspect of it?
I kind of mean more like the very early stages. So even before like Catapluf.
Even before Catapluf was conceived, how you mean the concept of making music for kids, or the concept of the whole organization of sound?
More the technical aspect of like, so I'm quite clear on how you had the concept of what you wanted to do with regards to sounds and all of that, but how did you actually make it happen? Like the technical kind of side of like who you went to speak to and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like trying to relate it to a personal kind of level.
Nobody. Like I created it. I think the storyline. Well, you know, I think, sorry, I am reflecting as I am answering your question. Yeah, I think that's when I say to you that working with the producer or manager is super important. I think that Martel and many others, Katrina, many other producers, but mainly Martel actually, they also work as a mirror. So we had artistic discussions where we were talking about concepts. What happens if you do that from their perspective as well? So what happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? And you start getting different feedback about what you're thinking about. What is it that you are developing? Where does it take? And is it where you want to go? I think they were one of the people where I had those discussions. But the kids, Jane, the kids will tell you a lot of what you're doing, because the great thing about devising Catapluf is because there was a series of 3 events, 3 workshops that were organized where I could go to the schools and try things out. And that gave me a lot, you know. It's like the kids, I provided an opportunity, the opportunity was there, and I used it to understand what is it that the kids respond to, how the kids respond to it, and then why are they respond to that. Once I had that, okay, I could, you know, work out what I needed to do in order to create a storyline where they would be involved, they would be taken into all the time. I think that's that was the process there. So the kids actually were the main thing. You put it to them and sometimes they are gonna go, they just not interested. And then I had to realize, why are they not interested? Well, let me try this again, but in a different way. Okay, that's how I get them inside of it. So, and it depends on the story that you want to develop, depends on the sound that you have with you. Is it the voice? You know, there are different ways to work with the voice, right? We can't, I mean, sorry, we're running out of time, but we can talk about a lot of things because the voice has been mainly used in one particular way, because the mainstreams bombards kids with one particular way of using voice, whatever fits in the mainstream. But outside of it, there are many other ways to use voice, and they love it. Same as the pandeiro, the tambourine. Yeah, you can do a lot. Same the saxophone, same the drum kit. So what is it that, why is it that kids are not exposed to all these other so much rich things that we have? It's quite extraordinary. So it is that I, you know, as a development of Catapluf, I actually, one of my things now is to be an advisor and a director of shows, performance dedicated to children. So not so much being inside performing, I also want that, but actually I am devising shows for kids now.
Thank you so much, Adriano. I mean, you're right that it's like kids are almost a perfect audience for experimentation in some ways because they're so open. There's a good question there, but we are going to have to move on to the next project. But however, we might be able to come back to it because it'll actually be relevant to all the 3 projects, which is just about how to engage music with more sorry, how to engage children with more avant-garde pieces of music. But I think that's actually kind of relevant to everything we're talking about. So thank you, Martel and Adriano. And we might have time to come back a little bit to Catapluf at the end, but we might just move on now to Cleo and Simon, who are both in Belgium this morning, I think, right? And they're going to be speaking about a show, Milestones, that they developed as part of the Big Bang Festival, which is a festival of adventurous music for children, and some other projects as well. So if you guys want to take it away there.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'll give a quick introduction. Milestones, I worked as a production manager for Zonzo Company, which is the production company for adventurous musical projects for children in Belgium. I worked there for 6 years, and they're also the coordinator of, indeed, as Aoife said, the Big Bang Festival that has editions in many European countries at the moment, and even in Canada. It's still expanding. And at Zonzo Company, I worked with Simon on Milestones, which is a performance with the music of Miles Davis, specifically made for children. Where to start? It's actually the main philosophy of Zonzo Company is actually to stay a bit clear from education, music education for kids. Their main goal is to create concert experiences for kids that are fun, that are involving, that are engaging, but they don't tell about this is this instrument and you can do this and this with that. It's really like a performance. And one of the important things is that the music that is used in the performances is never really music for children. It's not brought in a childish way. There's not a lot of adaptations. The music of Miles Davis was the actual music of Miles Davis. And I think in that way, the question that Marion was asking about the more difficult music, Milestones is actually a very good example of how you can bring this kind of music to kids, because in my experience at Zonzo Company, and also I'm a music programmer in a concert venue in Ghent in Belgium, and I'm also programming shows for children. In my experiences, kids are actually really open to a lot, just as Adriano also said. They can handle difficult music. And I also, Simon, please correct me if I'm wrong. They can handle it, but it's also the way that Adriano said it. The trick is to find an entrance for them, to get them engaged, to welcome them into the world of music. And it could be done with lots of different things. Could be with tiny moments of participation, of having a workshop before a concert. But it's not the music, the level of difficulty of the music that matters. It's the level of getting them engaged. But maybe first, it's good to show the trailer of Milestones, which gives you an impression of the whole performance. So yeah, actually, this trailer contained already some examples or how the kids got involved in Milestones. For example, kids were asked to direct with just like movements of louder and more quiet and go do something chaotic. They were directing the musicians at a certain point, or they were using a boxing ball as a cue for the musicians to improvise on. These were all the things that made the music in a way accessible, even though it was difficult music. But maybe Simon, you can tell a bit about your experience.
Yes. Milestones was actually the first performance I did for kids, so it was really new to me. Was during the production, I was glad that it was within Zonzo. There was a director who was experienced, and also the trumpet player was really experienced to do some shows for kids. So my intuition when I started with this project was more like, yeah, we should be showing who Miles Davis was. We should be showing what music making is about in jazz music. Well, I was thinking quite in the how do you say, the education way. I don't know why, but it was my intuition or my reflex to show these things to the kids. But it was I never played for them. So within the rehearsal period, I learned a lot from the director. Like, no, let's just create this magical world with the atmosphere of Miles Davis. More like it was a person who had a turbulent life. Let's be inspired by it. Let's make a turbulent set of music, and this set of songs that we present, or set of atmospheres we present, they're kind of fit in the background of Miles Davis' life, but we should make beautiful scenes and put them together in a logical order. We don't really need the life story, or And I was kind of, I was not. I was curious if it was going to work. I was like, come on, these kids, they want this clear story. They want this entry point into the music that has to be very direct in a way. And my first experience when there was kind of a test audience. It was a school, and they came in. And I was like, oh my God, this is the public. This is gonna be weird. And we played, and some scenes worked and others didn't. And it was you learn a lot from these performances, and you certainly also learn that it doesn't always have to be extrovert. It's an English word, yes. Or you don't always have to show it very clearly what you mean. It can a very silent moment can also make a tension that children really react to. So, but yes, of course, we the concept of Milestones is also that we engage the children to be part of the music. And one of these things is, I think the most beautiful one actually, is this directing scene, because we invite children to the stage. We give them very simple codes, like you can put on you could put a musician on. You play loud, you play soft. We try to introduce these codes to them, but some kids just do what they want, and then you just have to improvise and react to it. And in this way, you kind of show what music making is about, what a trio is about. It's within a trio context. What does it sound like when just the drums do an improvisation? What does it sound like when piano and drums improvise together? What does it sound like when the piano plays soft and the drums play loud? I don't know, all these kind of things. But it's a really challenging scene, because every kid is different. Sometimes they don't do anything, they just stand there and they're just kind of too shy. and then you try to make music that fits with the person that's in front of you. So it's really, as a musician, you really learn a lot from trying to catch the emotion of that one person that is there. That's the same for the whole public, actually. And children are very direct. An adult person would probably just do its best to make it work or something, but children are more like, if they're wild, they're gonna act wild, and you adapt to them, or you make a contrast even, and they can all feel this tension. Yeah, my first experiences playing this show was really, I really learned a lot about direct communication with public, actually.
I think also, sorry, Simon.
Yeah, I also maybe I'm going different directions, but I also think difficult music, I don't know, if there's so much to watch on live concerts. The public that comes in, especially when you play for schools, I really love that, because there's all kind of people in schools. There are people that have go to the music school. They maybe saw concerts. Some of them never saw a drum kit, and you can be very conscious about this fact that a lot of these children just, yeah, they're very curious with this. Oh, it's the first time I see this drum kit, and it's shining there, and then a guy comes on stage and is gonna play it. It's already a magical moment, and if you're aware of these magical moments, then you can really communicate, I think, with these kids. And also, I don't think I ever changed the way I play or the way I see the music of Miles. Of course, we don't play it like he does, but it's our own interpretation. But I never changed the way I played or made it more simple because it's for kids. It's not necessary. Maybe the only thing I try to do is like, and I think this is maybe the entry point where Adriano was also talking about. It's like, how can I say it? Yeah, in a way you have to present your sounds. What happens when I take this brush, for example, on the drum kit? What happens when I use it? Or yeah, you can make a lot of sounds, and if you make them the visual effect of the sound, well, when you have this brush, it's a different object in your hand. If you show it maybe more than what you do for an adult audience, I think you really tease the imagination of the kid, or you catch them. So this is maybe one thing I kind of adapt my performance or playing. And also I think timing is, of course, also something interesting. I don't think you should play I think the timing, you should try to keep the set kind of condensed in a way. That I think that's also something important. Not that you have to change all the time, but I don't think a drone concert of 50 minutes of noise is maybe it's maybe not something for children. So I try to like create enough surprises and special moments to keep them with you.
Thank you, Simon and Cleo. We're probably going to have to wrap up, but if there is a quick
sorry,
no,
did I talk too long?
No, not at all. Everything you're saying is wonderful. We just have a short segment, unfortunately. Okay. But we'll maybe allow for 1 or 2 questions if anybody has anything they want to, or comments. Hang on. Let's see here. Just saying thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, here's Kenneth has arrived in. Yeah, we might then just move on to the third project. Oh wait, Patrick is asking, is there much dialogue in Milestones, or was it non-verbal?
Oh, it's all non-verbal. It's all non-verbal. I think it was also a clear choice because it's really about the music. Like I said, it's for me it's a concert with songs, and they all like are embellished with some video, some light, some theatrical aspects, but it's very subtle in a way. So we could keep it speechless, which was also a good thing for touring abroad, of course.
Yeah, and for accessibility for different ages or children with different language needs.
Indeed.
But it's interesting what you said about it doesn't need to be extrovert. People might often make the assumption that it has to be all singing and dancing for kids, but Milestones is quite moody and atmospheric, but kind of magical in that way. So it's a different type of magic where it's like the real world that you enter into.
Yes,
I think that's an important thing that Simon also said. That there's no need to act like or be clownesque in a childish way. It's all about the little subtleties that made that performance very strong, I think, and also intrigued the children. There's so many things to focus on,
And just one quick question then from Anita saying, did you have a video artist involved from the start with the visuals?
Yes, it was Water the directed, connected. Yeah, actually they were kind of made before rehearsals. So it was mostly the work of the director collecting the images, but we had really a lot of brainstorming sessions. So we knew we wanted a kind of a psychedelic scene, and we knew we wanted a scene where there's more like the 50s New York kind of atmosphere, and we wanted something around boxing because he was a really box fan, and was also a great tool to interact with the children. So yes, there was the idea from the beginning to work with video. Yeah.
Okay, great.
But sometimes I forget the video while I'm playing, because it's really, for me, it really feels like a background thing. But it's because I never see the performance. I'm always in front of it. Yeah, yes. I really the best performances we did was the ones where we were most focused on the music. That's how I feel it.
Yeah. And when the children are also in it as well is the ideal.
Yeah, but if you're in it, you communicate it. So they're
children really sense that kind of focused vibe.
It's the same with it's with everybody. I mean, if you see a person that is really into what he's doing, it's intriguing. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks very much, guys. We'll just move on now to the final project to discuss, which is was a collaboration between IMC and the Ark, and which started as our fun-sized jazz program of professional development for Irish artists, and then has evolved into its own show, which Mary Barnicott will speak about here and Aisling O'Gorman from the Ark. So if you guys want to just take it away and maybe introduce the show and have a little bit of a chat about it.
Thanks, Aoife.
Thanks.
I'm just going to quickly give a little bit of background. So this show, as Aoife mentioned there briefly, we collaborated, one of our many collaborations with IMC is another musicians development program, which we call Fun Size Jazz. And really it was in reaction to, I suppose, we're aware of the fact that this kind of work for, performance-focused music work for children in Ireland is really quite underdeveloped. There's not really a lot of it happening. There isn't really a scene. And because I work at the Ark, and we also program theatre for children and dance for children and so on, I could see the difference, that theatre for children is extremely well developed, well, everywhere really, internationally as well. And there's just a much longer tradition of that, I think, and it can often be more part of training for actors and directors and so on, that young audiences is just something that's kind of more on people's radar from an early stage of career. So, but we, like what many of the people have said so far, feel like, well, why shouldn't children have the opportunity to hear amazing music? You know, why is it all just for the adults? You know, that's not really fair. And also for musicians, you know, to feel like you can really like be the virtuosic musician that you are, that you can really show that performance skill to a young audience and make that connection, and that it's really meaningful and enjoyable and deep and all those things that we can have with adult audiences, but you can have that experience as a professional musician with young audiences. So that's the big ambition, I suppose, is to try and inspire some of that. So, but you know, people have to start somewhere, and like you know, both Adriano and others were saying, you know, you just have to get experience, you know, you have to start. So we created Fun Size Jazz to try and just make something that could be kind of relaxed, and you could just give it a try, but still have an experience with a young audience and get feedback and learn from it. So that's what Fun Size Jazz is. And we did an open call, which Mary responded to with her sister Catherine, and they proposed a short 10-minute idea, which then they performed. So we had 3 ensembles on each day. So they did like a 10-minute performance each, kind of a scratch performance, almost like a kind of open mic style idea, but with children in the audience. And they performed twice. So you get a sense of how it can vary a lot with different audiences, just like it can when you're performing for adults. So I'm just going to share a quick photograph here of, this is Mary and Catherine in the first outing, which was, so here they are. So Mary, I'll hand over to you now. You can chat a little bit. This is them doing their scratch version of the show.
Yeah, that's me and my sister Catherine, who plays violin viola, and we saw the call for Fun Size Jazz, and we both work quite intensely teaching string programs in primary schools all around Ireland. She's in Limerick, I'm in Dublin, and we both try and perform for the kids as much as possible and integrate music as much as possible. And when we saw this, we'd actually just done a kind of comedy feminist piece together called As a Woman I Play with Dolls, involving like ironing boards and dolls, and we'd written music for that, and we'd had such a great time putting that show together. When this came out, we said, this is like all the work we do, this is ideal, let's really try and do something for children. And it was really exciting. What we did was decided very early on that we wouldn't speak, so it would be completely different from our teaching. I'm just going to change the screen for a second. There. We decided that we would make it non-verbal and use the instruments as characters, quite similarly to what Adrian was saying before about, we had a cello, a bass, a violin and viola originally, and they were all going to have little bits and bobs. They were going to have fights together. They were going to play games together. And then through trial and error, we kind of honed that down quite a lot.
Yeah, so Mary and Catherine did that Fun Size Jazz performance. That was back in 2018. And then ourselves at the Ark and also IMC, we really loved the concept of it. It actually was naturally very humorous. So the basic concept was these kind of everyday experiences, but being communicated through music. So the photograph I showed, you might have noticed there was a photograph of a tennis court behind. So that was one of the activities that was being communicated through music and sound. And it lent itself to improvisation, which I think was a big desire from the artists to have that concept where you could take the music somewhere interesting and maybe a bit avant-garde. So we then approached Mary and Catherine afterwards and asked them, would they be interested in maybe trying to develop this show into something a little bit longer? And we suggested the idea of maybe bringing in a third musician, so you could have a few more options in terms of the musical world and the sounds that you could create. Then we developed it into a 40-minute show. I'm just going to get up some photographs to show you now of that. There we go. So this is just the Ark website. These are some production photographs we had taken. Here they are. There's Matthew and Catherine and Mary on the right-hand side. It's her shadow. Here we go. Here's another one. And this is reflective of the opening scene, which, as you can guess, starts with them all asleep. And then there's some really fun moments, like they do have a big musical row in the middle of it all, and which develops into quite an interesting improvisation moment as well musically. So Mary, would you like to tell a little bit more about how that, how things kind of developed once you brought Matthew on board and extended the show a bit more?
I think we're talking briefly about putting narrative on your show before. We didn't really have a narrative. We had scenes, but I mean, we hung a very loose frame to put the different scenes in it, and we decided it would be a day in the life, and that was really open because you can do anything in your day. So we basically started off asleep and ended asleep, and then did a few things. We got up, then we had a row, then we played a game of tennis, then it started to rain, and there was a storm, and then so we had like 6 scenes. Then we got on a train, went for a picnic, and this is because Matthew become involved. He was a brilliant suggestion. We were looking at having a bass player instead because it was string orientated, and then we thought, no, if we have percussion, and Matt's a brilliant character as well, we can do so many more things, and we can also be free to not be playing constantly, and to be moving and doing other things, because it's quite a physical performance in some ways, which was a departure for all of us, I think. And we actually got someone in that I think Aisling's going to talk about in a second to help us with that, because we really did need help. And I had a strap on my cello to just get me out of sitting down, and so we could actually play tennis, run around, and we made sounds for the ball in the air, we made sounds for it landing. So after all these scenes, it became a combination of kind of Foley sounds, imitating sounds, and then also, really importantly, always trying to bring it back to music performance. So always trying to make it about music and not about theatre or drama, or the fact that we were dancing maybe. Always about the tunes. I mean, I think my sister's comment always was, Kath always says, is this going to work on the CD? So, and I think that's true. The other 2 speakers both have very strong, like Miles Davis obviously works quite well on CD, and and Adrian was saying that his performance was as a CD, and I think that was a really good point to always refer to. Is this working musically? Is this working orally above everything else? As well as being a piece of theatre, which is kind of how we were presenting it, but mostly that was secondary to the fact that we were trying to write little scenes of music. And within that, when we had Matt, we did a teacup percussion picnic. We broke loads of cups in the Ark staff room. Boom, boom. Which worked really well, which we were worried about the fact that we weren't using strings there, and we were called string play, but it's completely fine. You can be free with that. And it was lovely, actually. In the end, it was one of the things that the kids responded to, I think.
Should we show a clip, Mary?
Can we do that? Yeah.
Katrina, could you show the first clip? This is just the opening scene. And I think in this show, as Adriano put very well at the beginning, which has really helped me understand myself, I think the ways into the music actually were quite humorous. There was a little bit of humor, and then it was kind of taking you, and then it gave the musicians, I suppose, that door to kind of go somewhere else with the music. So this is one of the little doors, I suppose, at the very, very start of the show. Okay, that's probably enough of that. So you get the idea. You get the idea, and I think it's delightful to hear the children's laughter.
We were actually asleep there.
Yeah, they were actually asleep. So yes, and they do obviously wake up then, but it was just a nice little device for, I suppose, setting a playful tone as well at the start, which kind of works well with the sort of improvisation nature of the music. So as Mary mentioned, it was kind of naturally came from the concept that Mary and Catherine had first come up with for Fun Size Jazz. It was a physical show. So something I've done in the past when we've been working with musicians on developing performances for children is to work with a movement director, which is something that has worked pretty well with a lot of musicians. So it's just kind of helping you to be a bit more aware of the stage and how to make use of that actually in order to help communicate the music. So I would say with all of these things, and they're things certainly learned from theatrical components like the video and so on in Milestones, but I would see them very much in a supporting role so that you don't lose focus, that it's all about supporting the music to be front and center and the music to remain the core experience for the audience. What you are presenting is a concert at the end of the day, and you're just trying to do that as well as you possibly can. So we worked with a lovely woman called Sue Mythen, who's a movement director and active here in Dublin, and she did a few sessions with the three musicians, which I'm sure took them out of their comfort zones at times, but as Mary was saying, the idea was to hopefully as well free them up around what they could do on stage with their instruments, and really just to help the physical communication. When there were no words, that became even more important, I think. What would you say, Mary?
Yeah, I think out of our comfort zone, definitely. But in a really good way. I mean, it really worked. There were two, in particular, quite physical scenes. The scene where we're all fighting and improvising and stopping each other's instruments and then playing again. And also the tennis scene where we're running around but trying to hang tunes on it as well. She was absolutely brilliant for that. She made us, who's watching you? Who's watching you now? She said that all the time. So we just learned to turn around and engage with the audience more. I mean, we were guilty, I think, of being introverted and working on our tunes. That's sometimes how we perform, but it was really important to become performers in a different way, and just turning around, look at the audience, then look at him, then look back at the audience, then look at him, or that kind of thing that I never would have bothered with. I would have just sat and played my thing and gone home in a different concert context. So that was really eye-opening. And yeah, and also there was always that jar as how much of this do we want to do, and how much of the most important thing is that we play our instruments properly and in tune, and make it a high quality music performance. So if we're running around too much, that's going to get lost a little bit. So just trying to keep that balance, but always having it, like you said, on the side of the music performance rather than gimmick.
Yeah, Katrina, could you show one? I know we're kind of short on time, so maybe one of the other two clips, either the fight scene or the tennis scene. Yeah.
Is that the one in the middle?
Yeah, go for that one. So this is when basically they're fighting for attention. They all want the limelight, and it devolves into a fight, a musical fight. So it gives you a little bit of a flavor anyway.
Just having seen it so many times, it's such a great show that those moments of chaos the kids really identified with. You can kind of, from being in the audience so many times for that show, there's some kids have a more naturally musical ear, but then other kids just love the moment when it all kind of breaks loose or something like that, or something different happens.
Yeah, and I don't know if Mary would agree on this. I think those moments of chaos in a way are those like amazing doors where you can go somewhere really interesting musically, and you actually really can push it. You can go for the stuff that you might otherwise, your instinct might be like, oh, that's too difficult for children, that's too challenging. But yeah, I think there's that intuitive experience of freedom that the audience is experiencing alongside with musicians in terms of the musical freedom to go somewhere really interesting and spontaneous in the moment, musically speaking. What do you think, Mary?
I'm just, it relates back to Marion's question about how you engage children in difficult or avant-garde music. I think, I think one of the things we were hoping to do was to show how music doesn't have to be in a certain way. It can be challenging or difficult. It can be angry. It can express different emotions. It can be complicated. It can be argumentative. It can be really, really playful. In a game of tennis, you can be having this kind of, you can be very competitive and you're improvising against each other, and conversational. So all those things are aspects that really come out in improvisations, I think. And children totally relate to that, I think, in their play. It's very similar, I think. It's very playful.
Yeah, I mean, I think children in many ways are naturally great improvisers, and
yeah,
you know, just in everyday life. And it's something that unfortunately as adults we do lose touch with, you know, but they're still very much in that zone. And that maybe is something to consider as a performer, you know, that they're really there. And if you want to go there, that they're kind of ready for it, you know, whereas with an adult audience, it might take a lot more coaxing, you know, but with children, there's a very intuitive understanding of that experience of just like making things up and inventing things on the spot and being spontaneous, which is, I think, really can be really powerful. So,
and also we were having great crack, so I think they saw that.
Yeah.
I hope they did.
Yeah, and like others have said as well, if you as a musician are being like having that integrity and you're really enjoying and you're really focused and into what you're doing, that communicates as well, and that's a really big part of that communication from stage, isn't it? Yeah. So we may have kind of rushed through things, but does anyone have any questions, or Mary, do you have any final comments or major takeaways?
Just that it was quite challenging because our background, myself and my sister's background, is a lot of music tuition, to just keep it as a performance and not as a workshop. I think we talked about that quite a lot, trying not to do the traits that we knew how to do really well, that we would do in our work every day by getting children involved, by doing a call and response clapping or things like that. It was quite hard because we weren't talking to them to veer away from that and just really trust that they were just going to watch for most of it, and that they did kind of join in sometimes, even though it wasn't something we kind of put out. But that was fine as well. Different audiences did different things. Some people sang along at the end. You know yourself, every audience was different, every kid was different. But I think in the end it was a better thing not to have any of just take it away from the workshop and present it as a performance.
I might ask a quick question if there's no other blue hands up. To all the musicians, has developing this sort of work affected or changed your regular performances, as in when you perform for adults? Has it affected you in any way, the way that you start thinking about whenever you're making work for kids?
I think so, yes. I think not very clear what it is, but if you learn to connect with different audiences, for me it's always important as a performer to give your audience and yourself also the idea that this evening is, or this performance is a unique moment, you know. Something you do, the next audience will see a different thing in a way. and I think for kids sometimes it's a bit more direct than for adults. So you sometimes keep this feeling on a regular gig, or also to be very. If you always play for inside jazz lovers, you can be very, you can just go and play your music and go back. But I think adults also like when there's like these special little moments, not only in the music, but also in the scenery in a way. And I think that you do different stuff, but you keep this in mind, that the scenery might be also very important. That's maybe what I think more of now than 6 years ago. Somebody else?
Great.
I'm not a musician, obviously, but I just wanted to say about the stagecraft element. I think it was what I noticed in developing in string play with the Ark was, especially through the movement coach, was the direct eye contact and the expressiveness that I think carries over into all performance. And I think that maybe a lot of musicians are used to performing in a very, I think Mary mentioned about this insular way, you know, where you're just kind of focused on the music, but there is a kind of a stagecraft element every time you get up on any stage, whether it be for young audiences or whatever, is about that communication. You know, you communicate through the music, but you also communicate through body language and all these other things. And I think Simon's point about, you know, making it, I suppose in a way, making an audience feel like this is a special and unique moment that won't happen again. I think young or old can appreciate that, and I think it's a valuable skill to learn. And what I noticed when we were developing string play is that in order for that to happen, the kind of the autodidactic nature of teacher-child, kind of that relationship, adult-child, I guess, you need to strip that away and become more of a vulnerable performer, you know, in order for you to have that connection, which is different. And I think that is something that you can only get through, like you can only get through experience and practice, you know. So I think it's like, I learned so much, you know, from just watching Mary, Matthew, and Catherine, you know, go through, especially with the movement director. That absolutely fascinated me. I thought there was so much there, and you know, to go look at a rehearsal and then go away and come back the next day and just see this utter transformation in the people it was mind-blowing, actually, and it was so rewarding. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of jump in on that, because I really was amazed by how much the movement coach and direction really just lifted everything to another level, and it was so enjoyable to see happen.
Adriano, do you want to say something?
Sure, yes. Yes, I agree with both Simon and Kenneth. And I think also what I learned is that sometimes you go on stage and you start performing, and because kids, they are very honest, they are not quite there yet. And you have to find a way throughout the performance, in that very moment, to get them with you, to take them with you on the journey. And for this, I think you create an atmosphere where they feel at home. How do I make them feeling at home? How do I make them feeling that they are in their living room, sitting, you know, in their house at their living room? And this is something I've seen in a few performers like Bob McFerrin. You know, when you go to see, you feel so close to him, although you are quite distant. And also Nana Vasconcelos, a great percussionist, you instantly, you go like, okay, so right, we can relax here. So this is something that I developed through performing for kids, and that this went over also for, you know, adult audiences. And this has really paid off. It is a really great atmosphere then in the whole concept. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think everybody, young or old, wants to feel that connection. Just now we're all missing, obviously, live concerts, which that's that special element of it being this one-off moment in time that is something that's happening live in front of you, and the physical connections. And anyway, next year, hopefully, there'll be lots more of that. So we have gone a little bit over time, I'm afraid, but we're going to have to wrap it up for this session. Massive thank you to our speakers, Martel Ollerenshaw, Adriano Adewale, Cleo Janse, Simon Segers, Aisling O'Gorman, and Mary Barnicott. And we'll share links if anybody wants to learn more about their shows or their companies afterwards. And then now we'll just take a 10-minute break. If you want to just turn off your video or mute your sound for 10 minutes and have a cup of tea or something like that. And we'll come back afterwards for a practical session about funding options and commissioning options and ways to kind of develop an idea further.